On December 5, 1945, 5 torpedo bomber aircraft of the U.S. Navy took off from Naval Air Station Fort Lauderdale in Florida. These were not just any aircraft, but TBM Avenger torpedo bombers. Powerful warplanes that had proven their worth in the Pacific Theater during the war. This mission was called Flight 19, and it was planned as a routine 3-hour training exercise. The flight was designed to be a standard navigation training mission, taking the pilots over the Bahamas and back to base. It wasn't anything special or dangerous. The crews were simply flying to conduct their regular training missions, practicing bombing runs and navigation techniques that were essential for naval aviation. 14 crew members participated in the flight, led by their flight leader, Lieutenant Charles Carroll Taylor. Taylor was a highly experienced pilot and war veteran who had logged over 2,500 hours of flight. He had served with distinction in the Pacific, flying combat missions against Japanese forces. His experience made him the perfect choice to lead this routine training mission. The 5 planes flew east from Florida, heading toward their designated training area over the Atlantic Ocean. Everything appeared normal during the initial phase of the flight. The weather was clear with good visibility, and all aircraft systems were functioning properly. The pilots maintained regular radio contact with their base, reporting their position status as they proceeded with their planned route. However, about 2 hours after takeoff, their squadron leader reported sudden problems with their compass. The magnetic compass, which was the primary navigation instrument at the time, had stopped working correctly. This was alarming, as accurate navigation was crucial for finding their way back to base over the open ocean. They quickly took out their backup compass, hoping to continue their mission safely. But the backup compass failed too, leaving them without reliable navigation equipment. The pilots found themselves unable to determine their actual position, floating somewhere over the vast Atlantic Ocean with no clear sense of direction. Taylor asked the pilots of the other planes to check their instruments, hoping that at least one aircraft might have working navigation equipment. But their instruments were malfunctioning too, creating a situation that no flight instructor had prepared them for. All 5 aircraft were experiencing the same mysterious compass failures simultaneously. After the compass breakdown, utterly confusing messages were sent over radio transmission. The radio conversations between the pilots and the base revealed growing confusion and concern. Taylor's voice, normally calm and confident, began to show signs of stress as he tried to figure out where they were and how to get home. The weather started worsening as the afternoon progressed. What had become as a clear, pleasant day was turning into something more threatening. Dark clouds began gathering, and visibility started to decrease. At 4:56 in the evening, Taylor believed that their planes were flying over the Gulf of Mexico, far to the west of their intended position. Based on this assumption, he believed that they needed to fly east to get back to Florida. This seemed logical if they were indeed over the Gulf of Mexico, so he commanded the rest of the planes to fly east, hoping to guide his squadron back to safety. But some of the crew aboard the flight believed that they were already flying east of Florida, over the Atlantic Ocean. These crew members thought that they needed to fly westward to reach land. This disagreement created dangerous confusion within the squadron, as different crew members had different ideas about their location and the correct course home. Right after Taylor's order to fly east, one of the planes sent a radio transmission expressing doubt about the decision. The message showed that some of the crew members believed that they had to fly westward to get back home, directly contradicting their leader's instructions. The weather continued to worsen as the day progressed. Soon, the sun began to set and the darkness of night approached rapidly. Flying over the ocean in the dark without proper navigation equipment was extremely dangerous. At this point, it is believed that the planes were actually 370 kilometers east of Florida, much farther out to sea than anyone realized. At 7:04 p.m., the base received the last radio transmission from Taylor. His final message was filled with uncertainty and growing desperation. After this transmission, all communication with Flight 19 ceased completely. All 5 planes were lost forever, disappearing into the gathering darkness over the Atlantic Ocean. Until today, we have no definitive answer about these planes. Where are they? What happened to them? The mystery has captivated investigators, writers, and the public for decades, spawning countless theories and investigations. After the disappearance of Flight 19, a search and rescue Mariner aircraft took off with a crew of 13 people. The PBM Mariner was a large flying boat, well equipped for search and rescue operations. They were on a mission to find the missing Flight 19 and hopefully rescue any survivors. But while looking for the lost squadron, The rescue aircraft also disappeared. The Mariner and its crew vanished without a trace, adding another layer of mystery to the already puzzling situation. First, 14 people of Flight 19 had disappeared, and then 13 people of the Mariner's search and rescue aircraft followed them into the unknown. For days after this double disappearance, a large-scale air and search operation was carried out. The U.S. Navy and Coast Guard launched one of the largest search operations of the time, deploying ships, aircraft, and hundreds of personnel to look for both missing flights. The search area covered thousands of square miles of ocean, with rescue teams combing every possible location where the aircraft might have gone down. But they could find nothing. The searchers discovered neither a body of any person nor any part of the aircraft. No wreckage, no oil slicks, no debris floating on the ocean surface. Everything had disappeared completely, as if the planes and their crews had simply vanished from existence. The area where both planes disappeared is known today as the Bermuda Triangle. This mysterious region of the Atlantic Ocean has become synonymous with unexplained disappearances and strange phenomena. The loss of Flight 19 helped establish the Bermuda Triangle as one of the world's most famous unsolved mysteries. Over the past 50 years, 3,000 ships and 100 planes have reportedly gone missing in this mysterious stretch of water in the Atlantic Ocean. Ships have gone missing, planes have gone missing, and in many cases, no trace of them has ever been found. The area has become known as the Devil's Triangle, a source of intrigue, legend, and fear. The Bermuda Triangle is said to be a very mysterious part of the ocean. This area lies between Florida in the USA, Puerto Rico, and the country Bermuda in the North Atlantic. It forms a triangular area that has captured the world's attention for centuries. Overall, this area spans more than 500,000 square miles of ocean. To put this in perspective, this makes it larger than the combined areas of Texas and California. The vast expanse of water includes some of the deepest parts of the Atlantic Ocean, with underwater mountains, trenches, and complex current systems that could easily hide the remains of lost vessels. Tales of the Bermuda Triangle are older than 500 years, reaching back to the earliest days of ocean exploration. In 1492, when Christopher Columbus set out to find the New World and establish new trade routes for Spain, he reported strange occurrences when he was passing by this area. According to his ship's log, his compass stopped working properly, spinning wildly and pointing in directions that made no sense. Columbus and his crew were experienced sailors who had navigated by compass for years. The malfunction troubled them greatly because accurate navigation was essential for survival on the open ocean. One night, when Columbus looked at the sky from his ship, he saw a weird light that he had never witnessed before. A strange light that looked like a ball of fire dancing across the heavens. Columbus watched in amazement as he saw that ball of fire fall out of the sky into the ocean. The light disappeared beneath the waves, leaving him and his crew wondering what they had witnessed. This was the beginning of the mystery that would puzzle sailors and scientists for centuries to come. Over the next few centuries, several names were given to this area by sailors and maritime authorities. The graveyard of the Atlantic became a popular term because of the many ships that seemed to vanish without a trace. The Sea of Doom was another name that reflected the fear and superstition surrounding the region. Sargasso Graveyard was used because of the thick patches of seaweed that could trap sailing vessels. These names were used throughout the 18th and 19th centuries by sailors, writers, and maritime officials. But the name the Bermuda Triangle was used for the first time in 1964, giving the mystery its modern identity. In a magazine called Argosy, there was an article by Vincent H. Gaddis in 1964 titled The Deadly Bermuda Triangle. This was the first time the phrase Bermuda Triangle was used in print. Gaddis was a writer who specialized in mysterious and unexplained phenomena. In this article, many disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle over the last several decades were summarized by him in a way that had never been done before. He had tried to link them all together, creating connections between separate incidents that had occurred years apart. Talking about some other incidents that added to the triangle's reputation, there was another horrifying incident in the year 1918. It involved the USS Cyclops, a massive naval cargo ship that represented the pinnacle of American naval engineering at the time. One of the biggest and fastest ships of the US Navy at the time, the Cyclops, was designed to carry enormous loads across vast distances. The USS Cyclops was a very important asset for the American Navy, especially when America began taking part in World War I. The ship was essential for the war effort because it was used to transport troops and coal to support military operations overseas. Its large cargo capacity made it perfect for carrying the massive amounts of supplies needed to keep the war machine running. On the 4th of March 1918, 306 people were aboard the USS Cyclops as it prepared for what seemed like a routine voyage. The ship's crew included experienced sailors, officers, and civilian workers who were essential for the ship's operation. The vessel departed from the West Indies near Baltimore, beginning its journey towards Brazil to pick up a crucial cargo of manganese ore. Other than people, the ship was carrying 11,000 tons of manganese, a metal that was essential for steel production during the war. The manganese was desperately needed by American factories to produce weapons and military equipment. The journey was supposed to take 9 days under normal weather conditions, and the crew was experienced in making such voyages. Everything was fine with the departure of the ship. The weather was clear and all systems were functioning normally. The crew was in good spirits and the ship was in excellent mechanical condition. While departing, the ship sent a message to Naval Headquarters confirming their departure and expected arrival time in Brazil. But this message was the last message from this ship. After the ship began its journey into the Atlantic Ocean, there was no news from it. Radio operators waited for the regular position reports that were standard procedure for naval vessels. It had disappeared suddenly, vanishing completely without any distress signal or emergency transmission. One of the biggest ships of the US Navy, a ship this huge and well-built, how could it disappear suddenly without any trace? If you think that the USS Cyclops incident was mysterious, a more daunting and frightful incident was the Ellen Austin mystery. This story combines elements of ghost ships, missing crews, and unexplained phenomena that would make even the most skeptical person wonder about the strange power of the triangle. In the year 1881, a 210-foot-long ship called the Ellen Austin was making a journey that was quite common for the day. The Ellen Austin was traveling from London to New York, a route that many ships undertook at the time as trade between America and Europe was booming. The ship was well maintained and had an experienced crew led by a skilled captain. But on its way across the Atlantic, Ellen Austin encountered an unidentified ship near the Bermuda Triangle area. The mystery vessel appeared to be in good condition and was floating normally on the calm seas. Near the Bermuda Triangle area, the crew spotted this strange vessel that seemed to be drifting without purpose. The unidentified ship looked completely normal on the outside. Its sails were intact, its hull appeared undamaged, and there were no signs of fire or collision. But there was no trace of any humans aboard this ship. There was no crew visible on deck, no people at all moving around the vessel. The ship appeared to be completely abandoned, yet it was in perfect condition. The captain of Ellen Austin decided to go aboard the ship to see what had happened to its crew. This was both a dangerous and potentially profitable decision, as abandoned ships could be claimed as salvage under maritime law. First, he brought his ship alongside this mysterious vessel and waited for 2 days so that they could see if there was anyone, or even a trace of anyone aboard the ship. The crew watched carefully for any response from the other ship. They called out, fired signal guns, and waved flags, but there was no response for 2 days. After that, the captain set foot on the unidentified ship with several of his most trusted crew members. There was a lot of stuff on this new ship, and everything was in the place it should have been. The cargo was properly stored, the crew's personal belongings were neatly arranged, and the ship's equipment was in good working order. During that time, people were wary of pirates who would attack merchant ships and steal their valuable cargo. This unidentified ship had not been subjected to pirate attacks because all the valuable items of the ship were intact, including gold, silver, and expensive trade goods. Due to this reason, the captain of Ellen Austin decided to send some of his crew members onto the ship, and that they would continue their journey with both ships sailing together. For the first 2 days, both ships continued ahead normally. The crews maintained visual contact and used flag signals to communicate between the vessels. But then came a storm that separated the two ships. Their paths separated as the weather grew violent and the unidentified ship had disappeared into the darkness and rough seas. After the storm was over, the captain of the Ellen Austin tried to look for the ship. He spotted the ship with his spyglass at some distance, floating calmly on the now peaceful waters. When he reached near it, there was again no trace of any human aboard the ship. The crew members he had sent from his ship to the other ship had suddenly disappeared. What happened to them? We don't know, but the ship was still intact, just as mysterious as when they first found it. It's said that the captain of Ellen Austin tried once again to bring the ship with him and sent some more crew members to steer the ship. But again, after a few days, there was another storm, and the same story repeated again. This unidentified ship gets separated, and the new crew members on it disappear once again. When Ellen Austin returned to port, the owner of the ship was so terrified after hearing the story that he sold off the ship to a German company. They changed the name of the ship to Meta. That's right, the way that Mark Zuckerberg renamed Facebook into Meta. This ship too was renamed Meta. Isn't it an intriguing and legendary story? But unfortunately, most probably this incident is just a story. Because this incident is so old, it's not possible to verify it properly with historical records. The stories that are very popular historically, those that are passed down through generations, but that cannot be verified properly, we call those stories legends, urban legends. These tales often contain elements of truth mixed with imagination and fear, creating mysteries that capture our attention even when we cannot prove they actually happened. Many rational thinkers believe that the Bermuda Triangle is one such legend. They approach these mysteries with scientific skepticism, looking for logical explanations rather than accepting supernatural causes. These researchers and scientists have dedicated years to studying the reported incidents, analyzing weather patterns, and examining the evidence with careful scrutiny. What lies behind the incidents of the Bermuda Triangle? There are many theories for it, ranging from the completely fantastical to the scientifically plausible. Some people blame the aliens, claiming that extraterrestrial beings had come and abducted the aircraft and ships, and had taken these with them to distant planets or dimensions. These stories often include stories of UFO sightings and alien encounters in the area. Some people believe that there's a giant sea monster under the ocean, perhaps a massive creature like the legendary Kraken that's behind the disappearances. These theories draw on ancient maritime folklore and stories of sea serpents that were common among sailors for centuries. Some people claim that this area of the ocean is peculiar and that aircraft and vessels are somehow pulled into another dimension or portal where they disappear forever. These theories are truly outlandish and lack any scientific evidence to support them. So let's focus on the theories that sound a bit more scientific and can be tested or verified through research and observation. One of the explanations is based on magnetism and the unique magnetic properties of the Earth in this region. The thing is that the North Pole of the Earth and the magnetic North Pole are two distinct points located hundreds of miles apart. This difference has important implications for navigation and compass readings. So when you look towards north on a compass, the compass is pointing towards the magnetic North Pole, not the geographic North Pole. But the real North Pole, which is the axis around which the Earth rotates, is somewhere close by. It is known as the geographic North Pole or true north. You can see the difference between the magnetic and geographic North Poles on navigation charts and scientific maps. This difference creates what navigators call magnetic declination, which must be calculated and corrected for accurate navigation. Normally, when people use the compass, as had been done for ages, they take this difference into account and make the necessary adjustments. But there are some areas on the Earth where this calculation becomes unnecessary. If you use a compass in these areas, you'll find the magnetic and geographic North Poles pointing in the same direction. The places where this happens are known as the agonic lines, areas where the magnetic declination is 0 degrees. These agonic lines shift with time as the Earth's magnetic field changes gradually. But for the last 200 to 300 years, the 0 degree line has been around or in the area of the Bermuda Triangle. This can basically create confusion for navigators who are not aware of this phenomenon or who forget to account for it in their calculations. The next strange thing about this area is that the region in the Bermuda Triangle is quite shallow compared to the surrounding deep ocean. When you look at it on a satellite map, you can see the dramatic difference in water depth. You would see that the Bahamas, Caribbean islands, and surrounding areas are surrounded by turquoise color all around, indicating shallow water. This area in the ocean stretches across a long distance with shallow waters that can be dangerous for large ships. You can see the deep ocean around it is represented in dark blue color, and the shallow area stands out when looked at through satellite imagery. The contrast between the deep blue of the ocean trenches and the light blue of the shallow areas is quite striking. Because of the shallow water, it is said that in the olden days when the ships came to this area, they got stuck here due to unexpected shallow waters. Hidden shoals were the points where the land beneath the ocean was quite high, creating underwater hills and ridges. But these underwater obstacles were not visible from the ships sailing above. When the ships were sailing over these areas, they would suddenly run aground on these hidden shoals. Many ships were damaged or destroyed when they unexpectedly hit these underwater obstacles, especially during storms when visibility was poor and navigation was more difficult. The third peculiarity is that this area has one of the highest rates of hurricanes in the world. If you rank the countries where most of the hurricanes are seen, China is at number 1, then the USA at number 2, followed by Cuba. Cuba lies directly in this area and experiences frequent severe weather. Which state gets the most hurricanes in the USA? Florida. It lies in this area and is regularly hit by powerful storms during hurricane season. This area gets hurricanes and waterspouts more frequently than most other regions of the world. These weather phenomena can appear suddenly and create extremely dangerous conditions for ships and aircraft. Methane hydrates is the fourth explanation, and it involves an interesting scientific phenomenon. There are some areas in the ocean that have large fields of methane hydrates, which are crystalline structures formed when methane gas combines with water under high pressure and low temperature. In Australia, scientists had conducted laboratory experiments in which they had found that when there's an exceeding amount of methane bubbles in the water, the density of the water gets lower. When water density decreases, the buoyancy of a ship cannot be maintained, and so the ship drowns suddenly and unexpectedly. It's the same logic as when the salt content of the water is high. The density of water increases and it becomes easier for things to float. As is the case of the Dead Sea, where the water is so dense with salt that people can easily float on the surface. A normal person who would sink into regular ocean water floats on the Dead Sea because the density of the water is high. The same thing is happening here, but in reverse. If there is methane in the water, it reduces the water's density. It is hypothesized that if there are methane eruptions in the water, they are also known as mud volcanoes. When underwater volcanoes erupt, methane is released in large quantities, creating massive bubble fields. If it happens when a ship is over the area, then the ship would instantly sink into the water without any warning. The vessel would lose buoyancy so quickly that there would be no time for distress calls or emergency procedures, never to be heard from again. This is an interesting explanation that has scientific backing, but in all the disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle, there was no direct evidence that any exact incident was due to methane hydrates. This is simply a scientifically proven phenomenon that exists in various parts of the world. But to have actually caused the disappearance of any ship has not been proven yet. The fifth explanation is the most important in my opinion, because this is related to human psychology and how our minds work when processing information. This is known as the Bader-Meinhof effect, or the frequency illusion. The Bader-Meinhof effect, or the frequency illusion, is a psychological effect that affects how we perceive patterns of frequency. It states that when we start to notice things more, then we start finding them more often around us. This happens because our attention becomes focused on specific things, making us more likely to notice them. Remember when someone in your family bought a new car? The model of the car you got after buying it, you would have noticed that over the next few days or even months, whenever you were on the road, you started noticing the model of the car you bought more and more. You would notice the same model on the road everywhere you went. You may also feel like more people bought the same model after you bought it. In reality, the frequency of the car on the road didn't change much. It was just as common after you bought it as it was before. But because you bought the car, you started noticing it more. Your brain becomes tuned to recognize that particular model. The same thing is said about the Bermuda Triangle. Though it is true that some big aircraft and vessels disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle, these incidents became the foundation for a much larger mystery. But if you've noticed, in many areas around the world across all oceans, there have been such disappearances of aircraft and ships, areas other than the Bermuda Triangle. One of the recent examples of this is the Malaysian Airlines flight MH370, which disappeared in 2014. It hadn't disappeared around the Bermuda Triangle, but somewhere over the Indian Ocean. This shows that mysterious disappearances happen in many parts of the world's oceans. The thing is that when people come across the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle, people start paying more attention to the disappearances and incidents there. The incidents taking place around the Bermuda Triangle become front-page news and the subject of books and documentaries. The similar incidents that took place outside the Bermuda Triangle, people didn't pay much attention to them. Journalist Larry Kusch, the author of the book The Bermuda Triangle Mystery Solved, reached this solution too. He spent years researching the actual facts behind the reported disappearances. He wrote that though there were some incidents that took place initially, but when the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle gained prominence, some people started creating their stories. There was mystery mongering, and some stories were totally absurd and hadn't really happened. The story of Ellen Austin that I told you is said to be one such fabrication, created to add to the mystery and sell more books and magazines. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration of the U.S. state that there's no evidence that the aircraft and ships that disappear in the Bermuda Triangle occur more frequently than in any other heavily traveled area of the ocean. The mysterious disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle that we see, no evidence that they occur more frequently in the Bermuda Triangle than compared to any other area of the ocean. It is not so. We see similar mysterious disappearances in other areas of the oceans as well. The United States Coast Guard has even said that they do not recognize the Bermuda Triangle as a particularly hazardous area for shipping or aviation. It shows that the Coast Guard of the USA don't even recognize the Bermuda Triangle as a hazardous area that requires special attention or warnings. They said that the fact that the area within the Bermuda Triangle is heavily trafficked could account for some of the mystery. The area of the Bermuda Triangle sees a lot of traffic of ships and airplanes because it's a major shipping lane and flight path. That's why the chances of such incidents happening here increase simply due to the volume of traffic. Pair that with the fact that the Bermuda Triangle is often swept by hurricanes and the presence of the Gulf Stream, it is not hard to see why ships might occasionally sink there. If you bear in mind that this area sees a lot of hurricanes and the water is shallow here in many places, you arrive at the straightforward answer to the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. But despite the frequent hurricanes, when the World Wildlife Fund had conducted their detailed study in 2013 for the world's 10 most dangerous bodies of water for shipping, in the top 10 most dangerous waters, the Bermuda Triangle area was not on the list. Simply speaking, the mysterious disappearances have nothing to do with the Bermuda Triangle being a supernatural or unusually dangerous area. You might ask now, what was the ball of fire that Christopher Columbus had seen fall into the ocean? There's a simple and scientific answer to it too. Scientists believe that it was actually a meteor seen by Christopher Columbus. Meteors are common occurrences in Earth's atmosphere, and they often appear as bright balls of fire streaking across the sky before burning up or falling into the ocean.